So your scale weight went up and you thought you might as well throw in the towel. All the effort and the hard yards that you've went to in the gym and with your nutrition just seem not to be working for you. You've probably tried all the short-term fixes like low carb or even excessive exercise. But for whatever reason, the scale just doesn't bloody move. Let me help you by showing you these 5 things that will get you out of this vicious cycle once and for all. Now, you may not believe me, especially if you're new here, but like I said before, if after these few minutes of watching this video, you don't gain more of an understanding of how to actually track your progress properly, then I give you full permission to go down below into the comments and give me as much hate as you want. In this video, I'm going to be showing you 5 things and what a realistic amount of fat to lose in a week actually is. Exactly how to weigh yourself and if you're actually losing fat or you're just losing weight. So let's get into it. So number 1 is frequency. When you weigh yourself. Let's take the classic Slimming World approach. You weigh yourself once a week. All the pressure is on that day. Let's say it's on a Monday and you've been good all week, but you had a few extra bites of pizza the day before. Now, Betty from Slimming World tells you that you've not stuck to it well enough, and you either resent her or you resent yourself, or both. So, what are we actually meant to do? So first off, let's look at a realistic approach to how much weight you should actually lose. So this is 5 pounds of fat. It's quite a lot. And if you're not losing 5 pounds a week, Slimming World and social media will have you believe that that's not good enough, when in actual fact, it's virtually impossible. Now bear with me, you can lose 5 pounds of weight a week, but let's just say you put yourself into a calorie deficit of 500 or at a maximum 1,000 calories a day, and you're good every single day, Monday to Sunday, 7 days. If there's 3,500 calories in a pound of fat, and you create 1,000 calorie deficit a day, which is quite unrealistic, you can physically only lose 2 pounds of fat that week. It might show more or less on the scale, but it's worth noting. And just remember, this is what 5 pounds of fat looks like. So when you lose 5 pounds of fat, it might equate to 10 pounds of total weight. And I'm about to show you why. So how often and when should you be weighing yourself? Most people's approach is like a weekly weigh-in, which is all wrong. I used to do this all the time. I'd also maybe weigh myself with clothes on at different times of the day. The worst is with shoes on. It can fluctuate so much. I recommend weighing yourself between 3 and 7 times a week and taking the average. So you can do this on my app, which I've just launched to clients. But there's also free versions of this that you'll see on the App Store. On Apple, Happy Scale, and then on Android, I think it's called Weight Diary. But being able to log that consistently, you'll be able to see a trend, and it should be a bumpy slide, not a bumpy hill. And that's what you should be looking for over the course of time. And then every 7 to 14 days, you should see a new weight that you've not seen before if you're consistent. So that hill should be just going up and down until you get the drop. And the issue is if you don't weigh yourself consistently enough, you don't see that drop and then you give up. And this leads us on to point number 2, why that drop might not be happening. The biggest reason is this. If I was to drink this whole thing of water, which I would encourage, I'd gain 2 kilos, over 4 pounds. Never mind if I've not been to the toilet, my weight could fluctuate several pounds in any given day without me losing, gaining any sort of fat. So why do I encourage you to weigh yourself? Let me tell you. So these spikes, I've trained a few fighters and people to actually lose weight, not fat, in the course of 48, 24 hours. And the amount of weight that we can lose is upwards of a stone just through the manipulation of that water. So day to day, weight is completely irrelevant, but over the course of time, your weight should be trending down. Which leads us on to point number 3, carbs. So this contains carbs. So this bar is about 25 grams of carbs. And let's just take your takeaway pizza at the weekend. Let's say that's an extra 250 grams of carbs. For every 1 gram of carbohydrates that you eat, you store an extra 3 to 4 grams of water in the muscle in the form of glycogen. So that's why whenever you do like a low carb diet, your weight will fluctuate way down because you deplete all that glycogen because you don't allow yourself to hold on to it. But it's short term. And that's why people end up in this cycle. So if I was to eat that pizza that's 250, 300 grams of carbs extra, I could gain several kilograms overnight. But then that's enough to stop me from continuing my journey because I think I've messed it up. And I say this because I used to be in that cycle between having a crazy weekend, face full of kebab, and that still might happen from time to time. But if it's your normal weekly cycle or occurrence, I'm hoping that this video will at least help you try and manage that. Which leads us on to point number 4, and the last one is probably going to be the most helpful. Point number 4 is your workouts. Every time you do a workout, you will lose a fair amount of weight. but not because you burn an excess amount of calories. They're actually only between 5 and 10% of your overall daily calorie burn. So workouts are actually completely ineffective for fat loss. Most of your calories are going to be burned through your diet and staying in that deficit and your steps. But why do we lose so much weight when we work out? Not just because we've sweated out the water, etc., but also because of we're depleting that carb source and the energy source that we put into the muscle whenever we have any carbohydrates. And that's our primary source of energy for any sort of strenuous exercise. So every time you work out, you deplete glycogen, and then when you eat carbs again, you replenish it, and then you end up in a cycle. So that's why it's important to know that the weight is going to fluctuate up, down, up, down, up, down. And there's no getting away from it. It's impossible to be linear unless you just don't eat or drink, which then you need to seek help. And lastly, we're nearly at the end, your weekends. What people don't think about, or they just choose to ignore, is their weekends. Now, if you want the weekend framework, I'll link the video somewhere around here where you can go and watch that. It's only a few minutes. But your calories should be tracked over the course of a week, not just a day. So you could have been great Monday to Friday, and then you could have undone all your work over the course of the weekend by not making some appropriate swaps. So if you want to learn about how to balance your weekends and your calories to be able to bank it, to be able to have a kebab or even a pizza at the weekend, go and watch that video. There's free stuff down below, calorie calculator, etc. Coaching's below as well. About 90% of you that watch this channel aren't subscribed. So if you want me to continue making videos, I need to know that people are getting value. So subscribe or don't, whatever. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.